Good afternoon, everyone. So, once again, we are gathered today for a very new topic, barrier-free environment in hospitals. This barrier-free concept helps us to create more patient-centeredness in our caregiving. So, today we have with us architect Rishikesh Ashtekar sir. He will be giving us a talk on this topic. So, before he begins his talk, let me introduce with him to you first. So, an expert in urban design and a keen interest in service-oriented buildings, Ashtekar sir has been instrumental in master planning of various large-scale industrial layouts, customized homes, complex industrial buildings, as well as healthcare buildings. Apart from his practice, he is also actively involved in research related to architecture and built environment. He teaches design technology and research subjects at VIP's PVP College of Architecture. He has various publications under his name in national and international journals. With this, I conclude my short introduction of Ashtekar sir, and I hand over the mic to sir. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot. Am I audible? I hope like I am audible to everyone. And so like we are as suggested by we are going to see this topic called barrier-free environment in healthcare buildings. And yes, maybe I am an architect and I have done few healthcare buildings and buildings related with service-oriented and access to all and things like that. So let us go into it step by step without much wasting time. Next slide, madam. Yes, now let us first understand, this is one of my favorite diagrams, and this also maybe you might have seen that in the book what I have authored for your course, where what we have done, like we have said, like this healthcare buildings and facilities, they are now divided into two types. One is the government system and second is the private facility. So government system, you have the primary, the secondary and tertiary hospitals. While the private facility has the single unit type, the small hospitals and medium and large hospitals. Now, under that one can see subcategory like primary healthcare center, sub-center, community healthcare hospital. In the tertiary, which is more critical for you, where one is talking about medical hospitals, and parallelly to that in the private thing, we are talking about 50 to 100 beds hospital. We are talking about this district general hospital. We are also talking about special facility of cardiology or maybe maternity or something specific kind of a thing. We are also talking about specialty treatment at one side, and other side we are talking about hospitals which are 100 bed and above. Apart from this, we are also we also need to acknowledge like there are so many facilities which are the part of a commercial building or of a larger building or a smaller facilities which are there, maybe 50 to 100, 10 to 50 bed general hospitals, or there is a specific healthcare facility, or there are this clinic, dental clinic, diagnostic center, etc., etc. So what we are actually trying to understand, like these healthcare facilities, they are distributed with so many types that one should understand their variation, acknowledge their variation. So when we are talking about healthcare facilities, we are not only talking about those typically Apollo Hospital and KEMs and Apollos and Wockhardt and Fortis and things like that. But we are also talking about a lot of small players in the system which actually require our expertise. So next slide, ma'am. Yes. Now coming back to where this barrier-free environment is required, one is looking at the idea where there is this something which is called a movement within the buildings, and movement is the main critical part. So there are here like again the typical concept of barrier free. What I have done, like I have categorized that into two parts. The part A is that movement system of different users in the building. That is a clear and segregated and barrier free. So here we are not really talking about differently abled people, but we are talking about very clearly segregated barrier free movement of all. Okay, now what all type of users are, we will understand. Then the part B, which is more critical, is we are talking about the details of building that are barrier free. Now, when you talk about details, we are talking about things like ramps, staircases, corridors and passages, entrances, exits, elevators, lifts, systems, and also specific rooms, so toilets, then private rooms, critical areas, ICU, like ICU, OT, isolation area, also diagnostic area like MRI, blood samples, etc., etc. Also examination rooms which are there, like OPDs and patient registration hallways and canteen. There is so many things which are there. Now, why we are putting this list and directly jumping onto the details, because if you the earlier slide, which actually shows you the different type of building types under healthcare, what one can see. The second slide after this, many of these things will be there everywhere. So you can see ramp everywhere. A ramp will be also there for a small laboratory. A ramp will be also there for a large hospital, but ramp will be there definitely. Staircases is there for a 50-bed hospital. Staircase is there for a 100-bed corridor. It is there everywhere. Entrance, exit, सब जगह पे. Signage system everywhere it is required. Toilets, you take small toilet or you take a large toilet. Everything is required. Maybe the size will differ, but all these things are actually OPDs. It will be there everywhere. OPD, we are talking about clinics. Okay, so one is, if any doctor comes to you and says, okay, I want to get done on my own clinic, which is barrier free. So yes, maybe it is there everywhere. It is for a small clinic of a doctor, which is maybe 5-6 doctors are coming together and opening up a clinic. That is there, or it is a OPD of a large hospital. बात तो वही है. Canteen eateries are there everywhere. Patient registration desks are everywhere. So my point is that when we are talking about barrier free, we are talking about application in any kind of healthcare system, and we are not really talking about again those Fortises and Wockhards and KEMs and huge hospitals where which may have the huge amount of funds to. Okay, so can we go to the next slide? We'll start with the movement of buildings. Yes, so we are talking about the various movement systems based upon the users. Here, now what are the different type of users? Now I am just again acknowledging that this is a study which I had got done from my students of 4th year BR in 2016-17, that is PVP College, where they studied all the 5 or 6 big hospitals in Pune, Sassoon Hospital, Dinanath, KEM. So like for 4 or 5 of them were studied in detail. Now what did we study? Now there are, if you look at the right hand side, there are these patients. 5 type of movements are here recognized. One is the patient movement. Second is the visitors movement, who are maybe coming there for some so very small time. Then the doctors are there, nurses and other staff of the hospital. Now, what we have done, like in the other part of the study, most of the hospital plans which are available, we have tried to see the movement on the site and then try to mark the movement on the plan. So one can find that in places like this is I think part of the Sassoon Hospital pathology lab, where this movement is segregated, between all the different patient, visitors, doctors, nurses and staff. So here the barrier free and smooth movement of various stakeholders, where we actually, what are the key points for you to remember? Number one, figure out the type of movement using the facility. पहले तो list करो, okay. उसके बाद what you do, you have to have movement system for each type of users, which should be worked out such that there is no confusion. So there should not be any confusion between different type of stakeholders or different type of users under movement. Third is that there should be ample space to be provided to avoid crowding and also taking into consideration speed of movement. Again, ample space is also required today in the pandemic situation, but it is also day-to-day situation where you have to avoid crowding. That is why a lot of places required. And then there should be movement for differently abled that should be cared for. That is the fourth part. So if we, for any kind of a healthcare facility, these 4 type of critical points are there, which I would like to highlight. And like I'm sure this presentation will be shared with you afterwards, and this will be useful for you to as a something which you can tick mark when you are. So can we have the next slide, madam? Here again the same kind of a movement. Here we have tried to study in the Sassoon hospital. Now one can see that there is a main hall, and then there is this OPD and area where the patient movement, which is a yellow line. That yellow lines are not mixing, so there is a different yellow line coming for the patients, which is there for the emergency area. There is a different yellow line which is coming from the right hand side or the eastern side, which is for the OPD area. While if you see that there is this pink line which one can see it is for the hospital staff. Now all these studies are actually crudely, these maps are crude because these are all on-site markings by students. And this is something I would recommend all of you when you are studying hospitals. You should do this first, and one can understand the movement which is there, and nurses movement, how it is going, etc., etc. Next slide now. This is a movement of an OT. I will not get into detail because OT we will be covering as a separate topic, but one can clearly see that on the recovery area is the only place where one can see the visitors movement, while the internal all the corridors are filled up with the doctors. Patients of course are going there, but these are assisted patients, so one can see that kind of a difference between OT and other areas. So one has to analyze this kind of a movement systems which are there in the building and to make them as barrier free as required, and so that there is less confusion within that. Next slide. Yeah, same thing about which is for the dialysis area of Sassoon Hospital, where again one is trying to understand where in the ward there is access for the nurse, but the patient access is stopped there. Okay, ideally it is stopped there. Now whether it happens or not is a different story, but one is trying to understand the segregation of movement so that you make the different the accountability of different movement, the people who move, and how they can move very easily without any barrier. Next. Now we come to the real part, which is the barrier free part, where now why we have to do a barrier free building. It is there like in this RPWD Act 2016, where it is shown that you have to like it is our responsibility to ensure that persons with disability enjoy the right equally with others. Now it is a very dynamic and evolving concept where the barrier free, what all exactly when we talk about differently able, we are talking about specified disabilities in the government that we are talking about physical disability. So I will not go into details because many of you are into medical profession and you know all these things what you say. But any person who cannot move is a physical disabled. Second is visual impairment, where one cannot see, or a blind or half vision. Third is a hearing impairment, hard, deaf of hearing, some kind of a disorder and things like that. Mental behavior, mental illness, and disability called to neurological conditions like Parkinson disease and blood disorder, etc., etc. Apart from that, multiple disability. This is what the government says. Okay, Indian government of India. What we actually, so we have to acknowledge that that all our buildings have to be barrier free, especially the healthcare building. Next slide. So here again we are trying to categorize them into some kind of a infographic, where one is talking about movement difficulty, assisted movement, with the two kind of movement difficulty, which is wheelchair bound. Second is assisted movement, okay, where someone is with a stretcher. Third is the visually impairment or audibly impaired, elderly, pregnant women, and small children. So there is this interesting book called Design Manual for Barrier Free Environment. It is by Unnati and Handicap International, and it is available online. You can go through it. And if you can, in the same book, there is this sentence by B.V. Doshi, where he is saying that the disability is not a phenomena but a phase, and everyone goes through this kind of a disability. I will not get into the entire sentence. One can read it once you get the copy of the PPT. But he's saying that everyone, elderly, ill, pregnant, obese, children, people with fracture, poor eyesight, so anyone of us can actually be partially or fully disabled at some point of time in the life. Okay, one can remember like कि एक जगह पे था कि जिस पर मेरे को पैर में फ्रैक्चर हुआ था, so I had to go through this kind of a phase. So what are the difficulties what one has to so one has to be sensitive about the difficulties what one faces in this kind of a movement. Next, so we will now go to the details of barrier free. We will go through the elements now one by one. Now I am specifically going through elements. Now after this I am going to go a bit slow because this is something which one can understand one by one. And of course, like if I'm not wrong, there might be some Q&A session afterwards where we can discuss. But see, in a first is the ramp. If you go to the barrier free thing, first and foremost, what you remember, like there is a ramp chahiye, okay? So a ramp which is not very steep, so 8.33% slope. So hardly. So for going 1 meter high, you require a 12-meter wide. It's a rise versus run, and the ramp length, which is the most critical thing to be seen. So 1 in 12 is the max, and 8.33% is what is thing. So in the left-hand side figure, we can see that the handrails are there, anything which is more than 6% handrails are there should be there. For all healthcare building, I recommended handrails should be used, and the surfaces should be firm and stable. And we will see some photos afterwards. But you should have the handrails, and they should have a very clear landing where the wheelchair can be seen, and one can also see what not to do. So you can see this car moving up. This is a very steep ramp meant for the car, and the same ramp cannot be used where it's assisted movement and also self movement if it's a mechanical operated wheelchair. So you require a very shallow. Next slide. One can see that these are different kind of can understand. So there is a slope which is meant for the wheelchair or the stretcher or a goods car till 8%. Beyond that, it is all vehicles. Okay, anything which is more than 8% is all vehicle. Yeah. So a ramp which is generally provided for basement for cars, that is generally 10% or 12.5%. So a ramp like that, you cannot actually expect the wheelchair to take the same route as the basement route where the car goes down or car goes up. Okay, so one can understand the ramp slopes very clearly. Next slide. Yes. So other thing what one can understand are the handrails. So the handrails are why there are double handrails, because one can see that not only a person maybe who is walking next to the handrail should be able to catch it, but there is a lower level which is again a straight handrail where a person with wheelchair or a small kid can walk from the ramp easily. So these handrails are very critical with the ramp. Yeah, next slide. And should be always assisted with slopes. Okay, so one can with steps, sorry, and the steps will be alongside the ramp, so one can see that on the you can see a large hospital where the lobby, apart from the lobby, it is you have the ramp which is coming from one side, and the steps are there, so it is applicable for small hospital. Also, like there is, if you look at the this thing on the lower photo, one can see the ramp should be of a non-slippery nature. So there should be some markings done and so that it is actually even if it is tiling or a cement grouting, it has to be a surface which is non-slippery. So one can actually easily this wheelchair or stretcher should not slip from the ramp which is there. Next. This is a very, which is again which is called a curb ramp, and where it is useful, it is useful for the footpath from next to the healthcare building, where if a bound or any person gets off from the or a stretcher, if you want to take it over the footpath and to the lobby, you need to have a small slope. This is something which is called a curb ramp, and details of all these things are given in National Building Code, so one can actually see them and adapt them, which is in the buildings which one you can when you are guiding that the install, all these things should be installed in a building which is there. Next. The second part of movement is the staircases. staircases, it has got what are the number to the number of steps. So in one kind of a flight, there should not be more than 10 to 12 steps which are there. Then there is a trade and riser, which is there. The riser is, if you can see the on the, one can see in the section of a staircase, one can say riser means it's a height of one step. Trade is the width of one step. So maximum and minimum it is given 250 to 300. The width of the step should be. The height of the step should not be, should be something between 150 to 180. Then surface of the staircase, it should be non-slippery, and fifth is visibility of staircase and handrail. So one can see in this photo that in this hospital there is a this handrail is red in color. Even for visually impaired or people with low vision, they can catch the handrail. So it is very critical to have the handrail. So, and handrail should be for both sides. So a person, maybe old person, from the handle, catching the handle. Also, there are some non-slip grooves which are differently pasted on each step so that one should not slip. Next slide. Here one can see that other kind of a thing. Again, handles, it is detailed out in a double level handle, same as ramp. Here one can see there is something which is called a tactile flooring. Is a flooring where a different type of a surface is added at the landing of staircase. So immediately when the flight of staircases is over, you have this kind of a tactile flooring where one can see this yellow color different tile which is put. Why it is one with a visual disability can actually feel the flooring under the feet, or so it is very critical to. And then also it actually helps that the person should not slip while next. Here one can see that it must have an anti-slip. Next slide now. The staircase, one slide back. The staircase should have an anti-slip edging, and there should be grooves which are there should be some kind of a nosing strip attached so that you don't while climbing. And it should actually be of a very dark, separate, bright in color so that it is seen and visually recognized by with people who are differently able. Next. Then we come to the next part, which is the elevators. And if you look at the, actually very clear that what are the key things. First is that there is a level with respect to floor level. It should stop exactly at the floor level, so at the easily the inside. Then it should have handle and grab bar. Which it has, if you look at the photos of the elevator, it has grab kind of a handles and grab bars on all sides. The third is that it should have the location of panel and column button should be something at low level, so it can be pressed easily. And there should ample space inside. So one can see this hospital or stretcher lift, which is generally provided, has that. So all these things are generally provided in a hospital stretcher lift. So which one has to not worry about. But if it is normally, one has to see that it is all these things. Next. This is something very rarely you must have seen, but which is called a platform lift. And platform lift is actually used where it is specially meant for the wheelchair bound, where let's say there is a diagnostic center around 4 feet high above the ground level. Now out here, instead of having the large elevators, end up, because now they cannot climb the steps. And if it is not possible to give a ramp, of course, this kind of a lift is provided where one can see the photo where a wheelchair can go into the lift and it can go feet above, and it will open up in the upper this 4 feet level high, so that it can easily go to a destination. So platform lift is very important. Next. The corridors and passages. See, again, everywhere it is actually, if you look at all the standards and all these things, they say that around 5 feet, that is 1.5 meter, is generally required for maneuvering or a movement of wheelchair, or maybe two wheelchairs should Critical dimension is 1.8, which is around 6 feet, and best dimension, which is generally given to the hospital, all these hospital hospital is around 3000 mm, that is 10 feet, and that is what is specified in most of the standards which are there. If there are smaller hospitals and they're not following the following this corridor which should be there, that is 1.8 meters, so that the wheelchair can easily be turned there, and two or three wheelchairs can pass alongside next to each other. Next. Again, we come to corridor and passages where if one is walking with crutches, approximately a bit more than 3 feet, that is 920 mm is required. Most ideally 3.5 feet or 4 feet distance, where so that like at a height of at least 1 feet there should not be any obstruction. So anyone with crutches, the person can walk very easily into the lift and or any kind of a corridor which is there. So in a public building, 1.1200 or 4 feet or ideally 150 doorway is recommended. So any kind of a public building, 4 feet or 5 feet, most ideally 5 feet of a doorway is recommended in that. So for a hospital, it remains the same. One has to really follow that. Next. Here we are talking about something what you one has to talk. One is making about specific things what which are should be there in the seen this width of the corridor. Then we should have standard symbols for people with disability where people can figure out where the ramp is or where the telephone is, where the Hello, am I audible?
Your voice was, no sir, your voice has gone for a second, but now you are audible, sir.
Yeah. So should I close the video? If is it okay if I close the video? I can. So there is no problem.
Yes, sir. You can close the video so that better connectivity is there.
Yes. I like. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we like in this thing one can see that there is this non-slip surfaces which are there, which is something like a polyvinyl flooring or something, or should be there in the hospital. See this vitrified flooring, what we actually use in our residential building or commercial building, should not be used in hospitals which are there. A general detail what we use in the hospital architecturally is very simple. You do a very regular cement flooring. Okay, cement flooring or terrazzo flooring. Terrazzo flooring जो पुराने जमाने में आता था. Maybe the new kids cannot recognize, but terrazzo flooring is what maybe it's a cement kind of a flooring which is generally seen, or where you have cement tiles, and it is that flooring is laid in the building, and the top of it we have this polyvinyl or epoxy flooring which is there, or we have non-slip vitrified tiles which are now come. So flooring is very critical in the which has in the corridor. It should be non-slippery tiles so that people don't slip. Next. Grab bars, very critical. The same photo one see that you should along the corridor you should have these grab bars which are there, neatly designed and discreet. This is the visual one can see where on the right hand side one can see what are the specification of the grab bars which are there. So around 38 mm handle which is there, and all these things are given in our national building code. So you have to follow it to the dot. But grab bars are a must in all the corridors. And on the lower level, one can see a tactile flooring. So tactile flooring should be installed at certain key locations in the corridor, where maybe a blind person can easily, feel the flooring while walking. So it's very critical that these details are followed in the corridor and passage. Next. Signages. What are the important points regarding signages? Let us read through that. First of all, too much variation in letter type should be avoided. Contrast background should be used. So if you are using red color letters, background should be black color, background again should be white. So, and if it is a white color letter, then the background should be dark. So you have to see that there is a contrast background, and variation in the letter type should be avoided. There should be standard universally acceptable sign. Location of the signages should be at a level for wheelchair bound. One can see in the visual where any person who is sitting, the person should be able to read the signage. Light level should be good. So a lot of natural light. Natural light is almost like close to more than 1000 lux or even 10,000 lux. But if it is a regular area which is artificially lit, 300 lux lighting should be there. Braille sign should be given for information, and at least between 50 to 50 mm should be raised behind the surface, and the details for the braille signs, one can get them made, all these things. Some of the details are given, what is the height of the lettering, etc., etc. And hearing loop should be used. What is the hearing loop? I will explain you further. Next. Yeah, this is a braille sign. One can, one can feel that, and on the lower level, again, one can see that the height of the location of various firefighting equipments and buttons and things like that. So any kind of a panel should not be more than 3 feet from the ground level. So anyone with disability can reach it. Also, like the button, automatic door with the press button should be installed for the signages. Next. This is something which is called a hearing loop, and many of you who may be working in this kind of a field may be knowing that in a hearing loop there is a there is a way in which unwanted noise which is there in the which can be cut off, and whatever the person is speaking directly goes into the machine which is installed behind the hearing aid, or which is called a hearing aid of a person who is a hearing impaired. So this kind of a hearing loop is generally very common.
Sir, your voice is breaking.
Okay, the voice is still breaking? Or should
Yeah.
I, just a minute, just give me a moment. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, just give me a moment. Hello, is it clear now?
Yes, sir, it is better now.
Yeah, I'm sorry because of the thing, but fine. At least the slides are clear. So the in a hearing loop, one can this kind of a hearing loop is installed in lobbies, reception, and other areas in most of the developed countries. But it is also required to be installed in healthcare areas where the person with disabilities can easily, a person with a hearing impairment can hear what is being said on for especially for announcement and things. Next. This is a typical signage board which is there, and typical signs which are used for which are due to be used in the public spaces, and which has to be followed properly. Well, so these kind of a signages should be installed. These are all international signages, and they have to be installed in all the public areas within the healthcare unit, and so that it is very clear of what one is talking about, and what are the different facilities for people with disabilities and people who are next. This is most critical, and for everyone who is in barrier-free working, this is something which we have all seen in malls, especially in malls, in most of the thing, even in some hospitals, which is called accessible toilets or toilets for differently abled. What are the important points? Where anthropometry and height should be comfortable for the wheelchair. Ample space should be there within the toilet for movement of wheelchair and the person as well. There, the surface of toilet should be non-slippery. Then there should be grab bars provided along with and which should be tightly fitted, and the toilet should be well lighted and naturally ventilated, which is as far as possible natural light and ventilated, but it should be well lighted. And one can see that these kind of a critical heights which are there, the height of the sink is a bit lower than what it is generally, and a person with who is wheelchair bound should be able to easily reach the sink. So generally for a sink we take around beyond 900, beyond 3 feet as the height for a common sink. For health for this kind of a person with this kind of disability, the height should not be more than 2.5 feet or 750 mm. Next. This is a typical case where one can see that this is a typical kind of a toilet where there is ample space for movement and there are grab bars actually given everywhere, you know, right from the toilet seat next to the this wash basin and everywhere, so that it can be easily be people can easily catch and stand it up, and then you have minimum of an area of about 3 feet or 4 feet, and 900 which is there, we should be there within the toilet where a person can move, and the toilet door should be also be more than 900 which is 3 feet wide, a clear opening. In a regular toilet, we don't give such wide opening. In a regular toilet, you know, at home, if you measure it out, you will only have a 2.5 feet wide door. Out here, it is clear opening is 3 feet, which is so wider door is required, and we should open outside. A regular toilet, the door will open inside. So some differences are there within the the design of a accessible toilet and a regular toilet. And the flooring should be non-slippery, which is there. Non-slip tiles are used generally, which is very common these days. Next, if a toilet is very small, again specified by National Building Code, at least we should have handrail, these grab bars on both sides of the toilet, where which is called basic toilet for ambulant, and so that person can when the person is moving, वो गिर नहीं जाए, he can stand by himself and get out from the wheelchair and get into the toilet seat. So all these things are required to be there within an ambulant toilet or access. Next. Again, it's a typical example of a large toilet with a which has got this design where large amount of space is given for movement of wheelchair and person who is differently able. Very typical, one can see, and it is used. Next, we have the urinal. The height of the urinal is less out here. Okay, where critically why it is given so that the person from with wheelchair mount can easily use. And again, there should be grab bar next to the urinal. So all these things are typical details. What is there? Just be sure that grab bars are very specifically which are being used for the toilets, which are designed for that kind of use, because these are not the regular handrails. Okay, these are grab bars which actually do not move when there is weight on the grab bars. So when you go to the hardware shop, you have to ask for a specific grab bar which is wishes to be used. And whenever you are even designing a toilet at your home, maybe for your own grandmother or someone who is now difficult to walk, getting the right grab bar is very critical, and you have to fix it properly and get it fixed very properly. Next, if you go to the room and indoor spaces, the critical points are that again there should be ample movement, because where it's assisted movement which is there in the hospital room. Also for a movement for wheelchair, one can see the plan there where one can see that there is a movement of wheelchair that should be possible. The anthropometry and critical height for furniture should be comfortable for wheelchair bound. So we have to avoid sharp corners everywhere. Don't use sharp corners. Then toilet should be barrier free. Electrical switches at the lower level and surfaces should be non-slippery. So what I'm trying to do, like I'm trying to give you key pointers where these pointers can be used for design of any kind of a healthcare room. So it might be a small hospital, it might be a large hospital. Doesn't make it. Next. Psychologically, it is good to have low windows, and we always had low windows in our traditional architecture. Why? Because one can see out of the window, and then we can see this man looking out of the window, so that it is psychologically very pleasant and a lot of natural light comes in. Also, the height of the furniture unit should be something which should be accessible very easily. So you should not have furniture which is at a high, and same thing is there with the table height and things like that. So all these heights are given in our National Building Code. One can follow that to the dot. Next. Critical ICU units or OT areas. This is the intensive care unit, which I was lucky to work on this Fortis Mulund project, where I was a project architect along with Stoop consultants, where we designed these intensive care units where you can see the bedded unit panel is on one side. It is not exactly in the center. Why it is not in the center? So that actually when the bed is there under the bedded unit there is some kind of a space which is left on the side where not only the equipment is kept in, but also there is movement for the wheelchair, and also there is some kind of, you can see in the right hand side picture where there is a stretcher there, and from the stretcher the patient is transferred from the stretcher to the ICU bed. So all these things you must be encountering day in and day out in the medical profession. We have to take care that all these things are there in the critical areas which is there. So one is not only talking about different table, but is also talking about assisted movement. Okay, next. If you talk about OPDs, and OPD generally to true with everything, you go to an OPD of a small, it's a hospital OPD or it is a clinic. You should have space in between, a lot of space would be there, and for assisted movement, and for a person with walking disabilities, non-slippery floor, same thing is going on. Door width should be minimum 920 mm wide, and the equipment, examination equipment must be accessible till the patient. So anyone who is sitting, the examination equipment should actually go there. Small things are there, it is, you have to really take care that this can be used in these key pointers should be used in the design. Next. Diagnostic areas, X-ray rooms, lot of space should be there. You take it X-ray rooms. I took an example of X-ray. Same is true with the CT scan and any kind of a thing where lot of movement space should be there for people where a wheelchair can be moved and assisted movement can take place. Height should be very critical, so nothing should be more than 800 mm high. And there is something which is called for a blood where you are taking blood. There is a wheelchair blood draw station should be provided where the wheelchair can be parked and the blood can be drawn from the person's hand. So all these small things will be there. And for diagnostic center, we have to just a minute. Can we go back here? We said that the ramp should be provided for a wheelchair and stretcher. It is very critical that the ramp is there. And why the ramp should be there? Because the ramp where the stretcher can be taken up, where the wheelchair can come thing. So that is why most of the diagnostic center are located on the ground floor. But even if it is a bit 3 feet high than the ground level, so hearing loop should be installed in reception area. Tactile surfaces should be used. Surfaces should be non-slippery, and ample space should be there. So all these key pointers keep on repeating whatever one can see in most of the areas. Registration and very sensitive details. So a person who is on a wheelchair cannot reach the height of of the entire registration desk. The registration desk is normally almost like 4 feet high many times, and a person cannot reach the top while writing and filling up things, forms and things like that. So you can see on the right hand side, the lady is sitting there in a wheelchair, and there is a writing pad which is coming out from the registration desk. So very fine things like furniture detailing and all these things should be followed, and one should be able to use this kind of a things in in this design. And in the one can see this kind of a caricature where one can see that there should be a space where the wheelchair parking is available for when one is waiting in the waiting areas. So you need not get out from the wheelchair and sit on the waiting chair, but you can be comfortable there with the wheelchair itself. Okay, so there should be docking area for the wheelchair. The surfaces should be non-slippery, and tactile surfaces should be provided in the waiting areas. Reception desk must be wheelchair friendly. Of course, like other areas like grab bar and all these things should be provided at a convenient. Okay, next. Canteen and eateries. See, again same thing, but you should be ample spaces for movement. Aisles and doorways should be wide to allow easy access of movement. Surfaces should be non-slippery and tactile, and furniture should be access friendly, and there should be anthropometry which should be maintained. So one should be able, the height of the furniture should be somewhere where anyone who is on wheelchair or maybe a person who is blind can easily be able to use it. There is one this photo which is there, one can see. Now this particular table is available in the market where the height can be adjusted. So the height of this table can be adjusted for any person who is on a wheelchair. So this kind of a small things, if one is installing in the eating and canteen areas, it will actually help the barrier next. Yeah, so that might be the last slide. This is a broad sum up. What one is saying, that first critical thing what we looked at is the movement within buildings. The movement system in the building need to be worked out for hindrance-free access based upon the functions and careful study of the various type of users. And second thing, what we said that we have to focus on the detailing of elements within the building which are barrier free. So we discussed about ramps, staircases, corridor, passages, entrance, exit, etc. Where the key thing is that you have to have a clear signage. There should be ample width to accommodate the various users. Surfaces should be non-slippery and tactile, easy to maintain. You have to have double level handrails at appropriate location, and you should have ergonomics that are suitable for differently able. Ergonomics is nothing but anthropometric thing, like what is the height of various things and use of this thing. Then second thing what we saw about various facilities and rooms, toilet, diagnostic area, treatment areas, etc. You should have ample space within to facilitate ease of movement of differently able and maneuvering of wheelchair. You should have where one can where one can find that this one can see that the internal spaces which have we should have a lot of natural light and ventilation. Handrails must be located at, then one can have a flooring or non-slippery type which is there, and ergonomics of furniture should be something which is sensitively designed so that there is for the people with wheelchair any kind of a hearing loss. So all in all, one is trying to understand, one is to be sensitive towards the needs of the people who are differently able. And if plan is simple, you don't require to be a maybe doctorate in barrier-free kind of a thing, or may not actually get into detail. You don't need to appoint that actually who can do that. But we should follow all these things which are there, and I will just tell you which are the references which are generally used. Next slide. Yes, critical reference is National Building Code 2016, volume number 1, part number 3, chapter number 13, requirement of accessibility in built environment for elders and persons with disabilities. You refer Annex B, where anthropometric and requirement of accessibility in built environment for elders and persons with disabilities. Very profound and kind of a reference. It has everything in it, just everything. Maybe even if you follow that, that is okay. Second thing, what is standard, which is American Disability Act, which are ADA standards, which are generally used in US and many of the European buildings, which are available online. So I have given a link there. One can connect with that and think. Third is the design manual for barrier-free environment. Also, then fourth is the guidelines and space standard for barrier-free environment for disabled and elderly persons, CPWD 1998. Why CPWD? I don't know whether most of you are aware, but it is necessary for all central government buildings to be. It can be any. It can be an office building. It can be a hospital. It can be a shopping complex. Anything. So that is why this most of the things are there. Also, I found some of the good kind of a thing is manual, which is for guideline for differently abled construction, which is done by Ministry of Works and Human Settlement, equivalent to our CPWD. Actually, I happen to work in Bhutan for a few years, and that is why I am giving one of the references what we use, where work and human settlement are actually working on, they kind of make this kind of a guidelines which are there. So yes, I think that's all. The next slide is maybe giving a bit of information about. One can understand like this is like my name is Rishikesh Ashtekar, architect, urban designer. I teach at VIT PEP College of Architecture. These are my emails: ashtekar@rishikesh@gmail.com and rishikesh.ashtekar@pepcoapune.edu.in, where we teach students of architecture, and I was also have two postgrad courses. But out here, I think my main role out here was to guide more like as a expert or thing in architecture. And if there are any kind of questions and queries and things, you can always reach me with this at this information. Maybe you can short or something like that of it, and or you can always contact Symbiosis too. Yes, I think thank you. That's all from mine. Now, if we have a Q&A Q&A session. So yes, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for a very informative session. So we have 4-5 queries. I will read out these queries for you. So first query is
Sure.
how barrier-free environment impacts financials of any hospital.
Okay, see, this query is something I'm just trying to tell you. First of all, this is a very general query. Okay, very general query, because we first will have to list out what all additions which you have. And if one is talking about something like ergonomics or heights of furniture, or one is talking about installing different kind of a tiles apart, like in between the regular tiles, or actually installing handrails, it doesn't cost much, because handrails ka kitna cost, right, which is one is talking about. So the costing, I don't think so, which maybe it may increase by around 5 or 10% maximum, but depends upon the kind of the kind of part what we are installing. But just to tell you that barrier free buildings are not now option. Like our government have already told that barrier free buildings will be there everywhere. So finally, it is more like having a value addition within the building, and wherever your patients can benefit out of it. So definitely people from your side who are maybe working out the costing in terms of working of a hospital, people from MBA side and all these things, you can definitely work out the cost vis-a-vis the returns what you get. But you will get blessings of people from people who are differently able, and it will help. Next.
Yeah. So next query is how can we enhance olfactory comfort of patients?
Smell, again, maybe it actually, see, basically till the time we are looking at this barrier free and environment is basically related with movement, and
Yeah.
smell is a aspect altogether, where first of all, let me tell you, like, I hate to go to the hospital because I am smell sensitive, and especially maybe my wife, she has got a typical this thing. She goes to a place like that, she will start sneezing, and allergic reaction is there. And so there are people actually who maybe don't like hospital smell. But to do away with that, if there are certain kind of refining agents and all these things used to make the make the space smell more nice and make it more more friendly smell wise, it can be done. But definitely, being an architect, I'm not the person who can advise that. Maybe a person with that kind of a chemical background can tell you which are the chemicals which can be used and some agents which can be used to do that, is uh, which can be done. But yes, smell is one of the this, if you use the word panchendriya, smell is one of the critical part where one hospital. Yes, but we should do that actually. We should take, and see, I am of the opinion that like we cannot be master of all, and I also don't. Otherwise, you will also question कि अरे ये सब तो urban designer है, ये hospital के बारे में क्यों कह रहे हैं? But I can always say that I am jack of all, and you can hire the correct person who can help you in kind of a
Yeah.
thing. And
Sir,
especially
we have
these days, many of these. Yes, yes. Next question.
we have one question. Actually, I think I will put it in a different way. Actually, Jyotishri has asked that is there any exclusive way where we can make barrier-free environment for staff in hospital? But I will put it
See,
in
one
a
has to.
yeah.
Yes, yes, madam. Up, you can put it. The
Yeah,
way
I
you
will
it has
put
to
it
be
in a
put.
way that how can we put the barrier-free environment in a retrofit building? If we are working in an existing structure and now we want to implement in an existing structure, how we can do it?
See, I will just. Can we go back to one of the
Previous
maybe
question.
or the yeah? Can we go back two slides
Yeah, sure, sir.
back?
Just a second. Which slide, sir?
Yeah, one more slide back. No, maybe after that when we are talking about the sum up, इसमें sum up है.
Okay.
Yeah, this entire thing ना, one can इसके बाद, yeah, if you look at this entire thing now, one can actually no, just sum up, broad sum up, the slide
Sum up
after
only.
this.
Okay.
Yeah, if you look at this entire thing now, one can actually understand that there is this. If you look at very clearly, there are three parts. Okay, one is talking about first of all we have to list down who are the users, and with a hospital which has to be retrofitted, we can easily list down the user because it is a facility in use. Second thing is that what are the details which are used. So we are talking about ramps, staircases, corridors, passages, entrances, exits, which are there. And the third thing is are the various internal facilities. So first and foremost, the first step what one actually has to take, whether it is for the staff or whether it is for people who are the end users of the building, you will have to first make a detailed report. Just go through the building and see how building people are using the building very clearly. Just understand the post. क्या होता है ना, in India we don't have something like a post, which is very common in the Western countries. So we have to go through the building and detail and make a very clear-cut report of whether you have the proper signage, whether there is enough space in between, what is being used, do you have handrails and so on and so forth. That is why what I have given, like I have given the important points to be followed for each and every. If that is followed and made a very detailed report, then realizing, okay, now what all things we have to take care of. And let me tell you that everything to do everything, it will cost definitely, because it's a building which has to be retrofitted. But the building doesn't have a ramp. Now, instead of a regular ramp, can you actually make a ramp in steel and maybe have a different aluminum kind of a sheet on that, which can be instead of a regular cement ramp. So one should be able to do that actually. You have to first make a report and then detail out thing one by one. So that's the only way in which I can answer this kind of a question.
Yeah.
But
So
it has to have a certain attitude. Yeah.
Yeah. So one more query, that you mentioned that the toilet door should open outside. Is there any specific reason for that? Generally, it opens inside, but for
yes.
having.
See, I will tell you, when a person uses elbow to open the toilet, so the entire movement, a person uses the elbow, the door which comes out, it can be pushed. So there is a movement there, and there is a diagram which I forgot to add, but there is a diagram like that in the national, where it is shown that how the person is moving outside. But if I want to push the door, I will have to push the door like that, which is inside. The person if you are pushing it just outside, one is using the elbow to do that actually, and which is a very easy action when I am sitting. When I have to push it actually, I have to use my strength, and I don't have a strength below the legs.
Right.
So it's a very kind of a fundamental kind of a posture what one understands.
Okay.
That is why it actually opens outside.
Sir, one more student want to understand that what is tactile surface? Tactile surface.
Tactile surface. Can you go back to the slide, ma'am?
Yes,
tactile
sure.
surfaces. You can go to the staircase where it is shown in fact. Yeah, इसके बाद. See, you can see this like understand this entire thing. There is a like on the landing there is a yellow color tile one can see, and that tile it has dots on it. Okay, now that dots when a person when a blind person is walking, he or she can actually feel this dot, or if they can actually feel the dots under their feet, which are different. When you walk on a graded surface, you can feel the difference, and this is called a tactile surface.
Okay.
Surface,
So
if you see
it is
if you
so
observe
that the blind person can understand that the even flooring has come.
Yeah, so even flooring has come. So that is something that has to be provided, and to provide that it doesn't require too much. Now this is again, one can see that maybe a old staircase can be actually a part of it can be broken off and one can install it actually. It is not much So मेरे ख्याल से costing should not be the criteria. I mean, there are so many things which are costly
Right.
in these days.
Yes. Okay, sir. I think we have these many queries only. So thank you once again for this very informative session. And we all are hoping, we are looking forward to your next session, which is on design considerations for OT and special environment. So we had few queries like what is unidirectional flow for OT and labor room. I think in next session, all these queries can be answered.
Yeah, definitely. One can
Yeah.
see, one can understand that and answer that as far as
Yes, sir.
whatever I could explain you. And I think it's thank you Symbiosis for organizing
Yes,
lecture,
sir.
and I look forward to the next session. I hope this lecture you can share it with students. No problem. I don't have
Sure,
any
sir.
copyright.
Sure. Yes,
As long
yes.
as you can use them. It's very. You can also contact me if required. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. And I conclude the session as over for today. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much,
Thank you.
everyone. Sir, you can leave the meeting. We both can leave the meeting now.
Sure. Yes.
Okay, sir.